Hey, Disturbing listeners, 90 Day Fiancé bears all. Let's watch. This aired a while ago, but I'm going back in time and watching it. Let's watch.
But Tom, I always felt like he wanted to be, always the pretty one in the relationship, smell good, try to look good. I think he was starting to get some Botox after life broke up or whatever.
Okay, so they're reviewing her past relationships. This, I think, interview is happening, around in between the two Darcey and Stacey seasons. And they're asking about Jesse and Tom and Georgie. And they were talking about how Jesse likes to have robes and how he has cameras on the inside of his place for security. And Darcey didn't feel very comfortable with cameras on the inside. And I don't know what that means. I would hope that Darcey would just say, "Can you just turn the cameras off when I'm in here because we're home?" Or it's normal. You walk into someone's place with all the security cameras people have, often inside. I could absolutely imagine the beginning of a dating relationship just telling a partner, "Look, when I'm over, turn all those things around because I don't want to be constantly watched and recorded." So yeah, makes sense. It's just interesting that they couldn't feel like they could have the conversation, the two of them, about that, which we could imagine. And Darcey is now saying, "Oh yeah, Tom always wanted to be the pretty one. He was always, using cologne. He was doing Botox. He always wanted to look nice." And that's a criticism from Darcey. I mean, I don't understand. Is it like a gender thing? It's not okay for men to do that. Maybe they'll elaborate on it.
I'm really looking forward to Darcey getting here, but it's dawned on me that there are a few things that need to be done.
Okay, so it's interesting to watch the Discovery Plus stuff because it's on the internet, it's not on TV, so they don't have to follow any of the rules. Like there was one I didn't even react to. I didn't show my reaction to it. There was a scene with Brandon and this isn't an ad for Discovery Plus by any means, but it's a paid, it's like Netflix, but it's all your Discovery stuff. And they had a scene with Brandon and Julia where, how do I put this? They're going to third base on camera and they're showing it on the show in front of Brandon. And it was, I didn't know what to say. I just thought, well, I guess when you sign, what happened was Brandon and Julia were having a fight, then they made up, and then they started to fool around. And apparently they had forgotten that there was a GoPro on the dash of the car. They were in a car. And I'm thinking, how do you forget? The camera's sitting right there. But then I'm also thinking, well, if you're always being filmed, you might actually just get used to it, particularly if it's before your season airs, because you're not used to being seen on TV anyway. And I guess they sign these things, say whatever you pick up on camera is airable, So anyway, they're showing Tom manscaping right now. And I don't know what the problem is. Why is this I guess it's notable, but lots of people of various genders do all sorts of things to gussy themselves up. I would imagine that Darcey would want him to do lots of things, and if she liked him, she would think she would appreciate this. But I'm guessing since she doesn't like him, she's going to make fun of him, and the show's going to make fun of him. It's not okay for Tom to do this, but it's okay for Darcey and Stacey to do all the things that they do to improve, I don't know what you want to say, to modify how they look. I just don't understand what the joke is. I would almost understand it. I wouldn't think it was very cool if they made fun of Tom for not manscaping, because that would at least be in line with what Darcey, her values would be. I would imagine she would really want the men that she was dating to do all sorts of things that are done by lots of people. But anyway, so I don't think this tone makes a lot of sense. What I imagine is that they had this scene and they were like, how do we play this? We have to somehow have an angle. And so they brought Darcey on, and the expectation is they're going to ridicule him, which I just find to be, why? I don't understand the logic.
Before. I've never seen that before in my life.
I'm glad Georgie is all clean and don't have to worry about all that hair.
Do you prefer a guy who manscapes or one who's more natural?
Yeah, I mean, I like manscaping because, there's more skin to touch.
Okay, at least that's consistent with what I would imagine Darcey would actually feel. I would imagine that's, I don't know why I predicted that. It's just consistent with what I understand about her. Okay, so they're not really making fun of Tom, I guess, which is good.
And we're like, stop! We don't do it like that. We do the, Probably why we're so raspy.
Okay, next question. Which of you is more likely to text or post something on social media while drunk and regret it later?
I'm going to play along. I'm going to say that Darcey would be that person. I mean, I could see either. But from what we've seen on the show, Darcey seems a lot... Well, Stacey seems more conscientious and maybe even drinks less. I don't know. But let's see what they say.
Bingo!
Darcey, at least you're honest, right?
Sometimes I haven't even been drinking and I'll post and they'll think that I am. So it's like, people will just think what they...
Yeah, so it's interesting to think about their roles and their personality differences because they really do have different personalities, extremely different in some ways. And Darcey seems like the risk taker and Stacey seems like the supporter of the risk taking. She'll go along with it. In fact, I think during the first season of Darcey and Stacey, there was some talk about that dynamic. It's interesting to think about. And then I also wonder about the two of them, and I've talked about this before, about how Darcey it represents more of the person who thinks about her needs and will have impulses that she'll act on, where Stacey is more of a person who is trying to manage what's going on around her rather than looking inward. It kind of looks that way to me. I don't know. What do you think? Tell me what you think in the comments.
I want to think, yeah.
Okay. All right. Next question. Which of you has sex more often in a typical week?
Oh, come on. Well, hey, we are twins.
Okay, so I didn't have a guess on that one because I don't know if I would know the answer to that, obviously, or have any data to give me a guess as to that. They both have, she at this point, it's Georgie and Florian, and at this point in their relationship, both of their relationships, it seems like they're, pretty active. But anyway, so it's interesting to learn more about them.
I've heard some comments like, they were like, can you quiet down up there? We're sleeping. We're trying to sleep. So I feel like I'm, getting it on a little bit more. Yeah.
Here's our last one. Darcey or Stacey, which one of you has better game with men?
That's interesting because on one hand, you would think Darcey would say that they would say Darcey because she seems more extroverted. Interesting thing to think about. I don't know if that's true. But you could also see the two of them thinking that Stacey had more game because she is more careful and more noticing of what is happening in the other person. That Darcey is more in her own world, maybe, as she is interfacing with other people, because it certainly seems that way, right? It's interesting. I didn't show the clips, but they reviewed Jessie and her relationship, and then Tom, and then Georgie, and it's interesting to see her and Georgie together in the beginning. Like all the way that she approached Georgie was, I forgot about these scenes, how similar it was to the way she treated Tom and Jessie. And there are these scenes where Georgie is giving her massage, and she is just really like, oh, Georgie, you're the best, and this is the best, like really playing it up for what an amazing guy he is and how special he is. And he would be kind of nice to her, and she'd be like, oh, you're such a gentleman. And she did that with Tom as well. And it's just interesting to see the contrast with this season because Darcey seemed to just not like anything that he did, and certainly didn't seem to appreciate him. We don't know exactly why, because we would have to be behind the scenes. But anyway, so regarding game, I could see both of them thinking that Stacey had better game because she's better at reading people, I'm guessing, and she's slower in her reactivity. Let's see what they say.
Oh.
Come on,
Okay.
you know the real
so
deal.
Darcey says Darcey. Stacey says Stacey. Stacey, why do you think you have the better game?
My game is smooth and steady. I like to.
That's so funny. That's exactly what I thought. At least I think I know what she's saying. That she's slower and more calm and more noticing of what other people are going through, whereas Darcey is more aggressive. You could say that either one of those approaches would have its pros and its cons, but it's interesting that Stacey sees herself the way that I thought that she would.
Be in relationships, and I'm married, so I'm in a happy marriage. But, before all that, I just feel like I have more of the consistent relationships. I definitely got some bling on my finger now too, honey bun, these days. But, you might be sassy Stacey, but Diva Darcey here.
Okay.
Diva Darcey.
Right, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear their perceptions of themselves and how it seems to correlate with how I would see them seeing themselves. Whether or not one of them has better game or something, it would be hard to study, but it's more of a question of how do they see themselves, right?
And in questions about their relationships, I want you to read and answer a few of them, okay?
Yes.
All right, let's start.
My girlfriend wants to have sex in public. She thinks it's a big turn on, but I don't know. I'm nervous about it. Should I go with the flow? Am I being a prude?
Interesting. So now Darcey and Stacey are giving advice. I would tune in for a show like this where people asked them questions of various kinds, sex-related, relationship-related. It would be interesting to see what they say. So this person is asking Darcey, Stacey, my girlfriend wants to have sex in public. What should I do? I'm nervous about it. Am I being a prude? What I would say is investigate your feelings and don't do anything you don't want to do. But if it's just a matter of getting over a little bit of fear and you'll have a good time, then, do that. You could get arrested. You also could, I don't know, fall down some stairs, or I don't know what sort of public place you're thinking about. That's what I would say is don't do anything you don't want to do. And so your hesitancy might be due to the fact that you just don't really want to do it, which is totally fine. I would say most people probably don't want to do that. So you'd be in the norm. But if it's just a matter of like, well, but it could be fun for me, and or I want to give this to them, and I could probably tolerate it, or I might even enjoy it, then, maybe it's worth experimenting with, but always paying attention to your needs, and don't ever do, especially something like this, without it really being something that you want to do. So if you wanted to err on something, you'd want to err on not doing it. But Darcey, I'm just trying to think of what she would say. What would she say? Because I think there's two different versions of answers from them. One answer is, what's my real answer? And two is, what answer do I want to say on TV, right? Because I think that Darcey, especially when the two of them are together, I think there's a competition, right? That I think was fostered by the fact that they were neglected a little bit emotionally, and so they ended up kind of turning. Siblings will do that, particularly twins, right? And some twins will actually email in or comment below saying that twins are often compared a lot, like, oh, you're a little taller, or oh, you're better at sports. And like, you can, as a twin, you can just never get away from the fact that you're always being compared to the other person. And if your twin is better than you in something, it's like it eclipses what you're good at. Let's say you get like an A in math, but your twin gets an A+. It's like, well, you're the dummy because in relation to your twin, you got a lesser grade. And so that kind of societal treatment can cause a lot of competition between twins. And so for Darcey, I could imagine her saying, okay, how do I give a response that's cooler than Stacey? And I imagine for Darcey, since she's more the impulsive one, the more risk-taking one, she would say, you go, that kind of attitude. And I could see Stacey saying something like, I don't know, maybe a little just more careful. That's just my guess. Let's see what they do.
Yeah, I think it's illegal to have sex in public.
Yeah.
From what I know. So no, you're not really being a prude.
I mean, you could be discreet. I mean, you could try to find like a little hideaway spot or something.
Have I watched these two, and especially Darcey, for hours and hours? By the way, one time I was I'm reacting because I know them so well. I know how they're going to answer questions that are completely random questions. Anyway, so I just find that to be a reflection of how much y'all have asked me to watch of them, and which I've enjoyed for sure. But it's like, I know them better than I know like some of my friends. Anyway, so one time I said, because I was like, how many hours have I watched of them in one of the videos? And I did a search, and I searched for how many episodes I had done. And I misspoke because I was reading it wrong, and I just want to review it again. How many hours? So I'm doing a search on my computer for of all the videos here. So I have almost 38 hours of reaction video content with Darcey. And that equates to about 100 to 150 reaction videos, maybe 100 reaction videos. 100 reaction videos at 20 minutes each. But of course, I watched much more of Darcey and Stacey, and then condensed down just my reactions, right? So it's probably along the lines of like 300 hours or something that I've watched of Darcey just living her life. Anyway, let's get back.
Okay, now we have some video submissions from our audience. Let's roll the first one.
Hello, Darcey. My name is Jacob, and just like you, I'm from Connecticut. My question for you is this. How can I tell if my girlfriend is faking it in bed?
Okay, so let me see if I can predict based on what I have conceptualized as their personalities. So how can I tell if my girlfriend is faking it? Well, with Darcey, I imagine she would say, you can't necessarily, because some women are very good at it. That would be my prediction, as she would say. With Stacey, I think she might say something a little bit more adult-like, and that would be something like, well, if your girlfriend seems generally disappointed, overall, not just the moment of potential fakery, but actually doesn't seem enthusiastic, then that would be an indication. I don't know. What would I say to it? How can you tell? You should ask, because there's really no way to tell, because, well, what do I say? Some people will actually amp up their responses because even though they're not faking, they're exaggerating because they feel like they have to, or they're trying to please their partner or something. So just because you detect a lack of truthfulness in one's response, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually faking. It could just be they're amping it up, or they like to amp it up. Some people like to, really go for it in the vocal department or whatever. It's sort of like when you do martial arts like karate or kung fu or something, and or the tennis players, there's an enjoyment and an enhancement when we vocalize in various situations at a football game, for example. Anyway, so I would say you should ask, and if you have that question, is my partner faking, then that illuminates a much larger question, which is, is our relationship open enough such that we would be able to have a conversation could I just ask? Could they just tell me, hey, I don't really like it when you do that? That would be, for that dude, I would say, if you're asking that question, you've got a much bigger task at hand, which is to develop trust between you and your partner.
All been there, done that. We have to
Too much moaning and groaning. I feel like that's fake and phony.
That's a giveaway, you think?
Yeah, if it's too overkill,
I mean, you want it hot and heavy, but
if you're,
just,
screaming and the neighbors can hear you, then that's a little, I think, over the top.
Okay, interesting. I'll say that, whatever floats your boat. Some people like to scream, some people don't. Just the fact that someone's screaming doesn't, I don't think, indicate anything. And like I said, it could be a way of either enhancing for their own benefit or to make you feel better, even though they're not faking, if you know what I'm saying.
Wait, but Stacey, isn't that what you said Darcey was doing upstairs?
Yeah, I heard the bed moving, little moans here and there.
And that's predictable as well, I would imagine, given their roles in their family, that for Darcey, she's more out there and more likely to make noises that are going to cross the boundaries, like the floor, into Stacey's apartment. And for Stacey to just not be that way. I don't know what that says precisely about personality, but it seems to fit, right?
All right, here is our next video.
Hey, Darcey, Big Ed here. Listen, longtime fan, first-time caller, though. Here's a question I have for you. Fuck, marry, or kill? Jesse, Tom, or Georgie?
Okay. So we have Big Ed asking Darcey, F, marry, kill. All right, so what's my prediction here? That Darcey would say... she probably will shy away from the kill thing, because I don't know if Darcey is that way. I imagine she'll say, so F, marry, kill. She obviously is going to say marry Georgie. She might even avoid the whole thing, because to say, even because at this, well, no, she is engaged at this point. So of course she's going to say marry Georgie, and she's going to say F Georgie, and she's going to say kill no one. I don't think about the past.
Of course, Georgie, hands down, I would marry. Jesse gets the K, and Tom, I guess, gets the F. I mean, I tried to F, but, he was half asleep.
Okay. Not what I thought. All right. So Tom gets the F. I guess that it's consistent, right, with how she feels about Jesse. For some reason, I thought she'd avoid it. But she didn't. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.